Hello everybody, my name is V the Victim, and today I'll be trying to showcase the Maraudon purple side and a little bit of orange side pull, which can be used either as a gold farming method solo, or also at the same time even, an XP farming and boosting method. Anywhere from level 40s to about 52s can make really good use of this and get anywhere from 60k to about 85 or even 90k XP an hour. And for solo gold farming, you could expect easily 60-ish gold an hour. You get about 32 in just raw gold and can pretty easily make up the difference between 60, maybe 70 or even 80 gold an hour with greens, blues, and the occasional epic, including Edgemaster's Handguards and Underworld bands. I'm not sure exactly what else can drop. I don't think you can get like freezing bands, maybe, but there's also like the bow of searing arrows. There's a shield worth 30, 40 gold on my server, that sort of thing. What I'm going to do to get started is show off my talents and my gear. I've already gone ahead and recorded the run, but I'll put this ahead and you can just skip past it. I'll leave some timestamps in the description if you're only interested in the run. But you do want to make sure you have the right AoE farming talents as well as some decent gear, although you don't need particularly good gear to do this. Like I say later in the video, I started out with just mostly dungeon blues from Skeram-US, like some Necropile and some Magister's robes and that sort of thing. So first we're going to just go ahead and do the talents. I'm running a basic 16-0-35 AoE farming build, 2 points in Arcane Subtlety, 3 in Arcane Focus, 5 in Magic Absorption, which is probably the single most important talent here, because it increases all your resistances by 10, and here's the real one, causes all spells you fully resist to restore 5% of your total mana. This is something that allows you to do a lot of different AoE farming, and here is no exception. There are range mobs that use nature spells called poison sprites, as well as corruptors that use corruption, go figure, and resisting these will be your mana pool for when you're actually killing the mobs near the end of the run, as well as getting some mana back during the run. I've got 5 out of 5 in clear casting or arcane concentration, and also 1 point in arcane resilience for a little extra armor. The frost tree, frost warding, I just have this because you can use it for SM cathedral boosting, but it's not really necessary here. It's just you might as well kind of put the points in, although you could have improved frostbolt, doesn't really matter. Elemental precision, really big for no resists. 5 out of 5 in ice shards, although you don't really use that much during this pull. You want to make sure that you don't have points in frostbite. That's really, really important. If you're freezing mobs, then they're going to be getting out of your packs that you were trying to group up, and it's going to really hurt your farming. 2 out of 2 improved frost nova, 3 out of 3 permafrost, improved blizzard, and piercing ice. Got a point in cold snap, although you shouldn't need it during this pull. 2 out of 2 for arctic reach, 3 out of 3 frost channeling, 3 out of 5 in shatter. Not really a big deal for this pull. I had it mostly for Cone of Cold during Scarlet Monastery. Ice Block, 3 out of 3 Improved Cone, and very importantly, Ice Barrier. It's just the quick breakdown of the talents. You can just copy them. Otherwise, if you have something you prefer, just make sure you have Improved Blizzard, Arctic Reach, and Magic Absorption. Those are really the 3 most important talents for this pull. Now real quick, we'll just move on to gear. Like I said, you can do it all in blues. It's definitely not an issue. I have a few epics now. I just got lucky with the Netherwind at Oni. But I started out just using mostly Necropile and some Magister's Regalia. So here, just Netherwind. I still have this trash amulet that I really should upgrade, but I just haven't been able to get the drops or whatever. Basically, Magister's, a little bit of pre-raid Biss. I do have +5 all resists on my cloak. I think that's worth doing. It is pretty important to have a little extra nature resist when you're doing this, and it's a really cheap enchant, so I would recommend it. You can always replace it later with something else. I got the Magister's Robe with the +100 mana on it. I don't even have that many enchants, so if you do enchant everything, you'll probably be better off than I am. Some Necropile with a +7 intellect on the bracers. My Arcanist Gloves, belt, Necropile leggings, no enchant. I do have Arcanist boots, and here, the most important part of your gear, period, is have minor speed on your boots. If you don't have minor speed, and I go on about this in the run too, if you don't have minor speed, the mobs will catch up to you and you will die, period. Without this, you cannot do this run. Make sure you have minor speed on your boots. It's really cheap. Lots of people know it. get it done if you don't already have it. Cyclopean Band, Blood of the Martyr, just some more int and stam. And then the trinkets I actually have don't help at all. They're just kind of here. You could even use maybe like a nifty stopwatch or something if you get in trouble, find yourself getting too close to the pack. But just kind of fill it with whatever. And then I've just got some more int and stam and a little bit of spell power. Spell power, not very important when you're blizzarding. It doesn't give you a big benefit. So remember, just stack a good amount of int and stam. When I'm buffed up, I've got around 3k health and 6.6k mana. But you could definitely do this with closer to, I'd say 5.5k or so mana would be the minimum I'd like to do it with, even though it'd be doable with less. And your health doesn't actually matter that much. As long as you have like 2200 or so, you should be fine. So, like I said, dungeon blues, but if you can upgrade them, obviously that's nice. That's just my gear. Make sure you have minor speed on boots, and feel free to get some extra nice enchants like extra mana, and if possible, the resists on the cloak as well. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and cut back over to the run, which I'll have a good timestamp for, and hopefully you guys can watch that, and it's helpful to learn the pull. If you're going to be boosting any accounts, make sure that they get into the portal at the purple side of Maraudon here. They're going to want to go in the room, and then they can basically just sit right there. It'll be good to have free-for-all on so they can help you loot for faster runs, but that'll be once all the mobs are dead. So basically they can sit right at the portal on the other side and just gather all the XP because you end up killing the mobs in the room next door. I'm going to try to just go ahead and record this all live real quick. Hopefully get it all done and try to record some useful commentary and tips and that sort of thing along the way, because I feel like as I do them, I'll probably think of them. Basically, when you start the run, you're going to need a Scepter of Celebrus. You get it, I believe, by killing Celebrus inside the dungeon if you don't already have it. Pretty easy boss. If you're level 60 as a mage, you can probably just kill it by yourself with a little preparation. You go down to the portal room, make your portal. Make sure I reset from the last run. I did not. And once you've reset, you can go on in. For those of you unfamiliar with Maraudon, you may want to just run through a couple times along this route without even necessarily pulling anything, because it's really easy to die if you don't know what you're doing, and just kind of get a feel for the area. But basically, you want to take the portal in and head west down this pathway on your right. You're going to go to the deep borers, the little worm sort of mobs that spawn on up here. If you're 60, you can kind of just run by the Hydra. Worst case, you blink past it to get there a little faster. And the run takes about 14 minutes, so you'll see I've got 23 minutes on my ice armor, which is what you want to have up first, and 23 minutes on my arcane intellect, which is plenty because, yeah, like I said, it's about 14 minutes. Also, if you did see the video on Reddit that a lot of people saw and started requesting for me to make a full guide on this pull, I had Mark of the Wild, which gives you some extra resistances, like Nature Resist. But right now I've just got a flat 15 and then the additional from Mage Armor. That should be enough, and I wanted to record this without Mark of the Wild, because if you don't have a Druid in your party, you won't have that, obviously, and the run will be just a little bit harder, but hopefully not super hard. So you want to get right in here in a spot where you're within range of both these packs of Deep Borers, and you want to go ahead and apply Dampen Magic and your Ice Barrier, both max rank. Throughout this, I'll be pulling using rank 1 Frostbolt a couple of times, and then various other rank 1 spells. So here I've got rank 1 Fire Blast, rank 1 Counterspell, or actually there's just one rank of Counterspell, but rank 1 Fire Blast, Counterspell, rank 1 Arcane Explosion, I can't find it, but Z right there, rank 1 Cone of Cold, and there's also some Wanding in here, here and there. So basically, once you've got that, I'll just go ahead and reapply my Ice Barrier since I've been stalling for a sec. But I start the pull with a rank 1 Frostbolt on each of these packs. Make sure you get them pretty close back to back, so they kind of end up coming up the ramp together. Jog up the ramp, rank 1 Frost Nova, freeze all those in place. As the other two packs start to come up, you want to target this Deep Borer here, and turn and wand it, so it pulls again right alongside the other packs. You kind of want them all coming at the same time. Arcane Explosion on this pack. Go ahead and Fire Blast here. Obviously rank 1 for everything to use minimal mana. Counterspell. I like to reapply my shields so I don't take any damage. And then blink away here. Something I will explain now that I have a little bit of time while I'm running is most of the timings on my blinks are very strategic. Because the way this pull works, it's so huge, it takes so long, and you cover so much ground that at certain points, if you get far ahead of the pack, you're going to go ahead and reset at least some of the mobs, if not all of the mobs. So you really want to make sure that you don't get too far ahead at any point. Like you'll see, my blink will come off cooldown again over here, but I'm not going to use it because I actually want to let the deep borers get relatively close to me. So here, normally when you leave from orange side into purple side, you're going to reset the deep borers. They'll stop and they'll go back to their spawn point. But what you can do, and I like to wait a little bit so they get just a little closer, what you can do is when you run over, you'll see them all freeze and get ready to reset. As you get towards this island, you blink, and you'll see that they start to follow you again. So as long as you got them relatively spaced close, they'll all follow you, and you'll get to kill them all later on in the run. Also, the deep borers are the things that drop Edgemaster's handguards, potentially, from here. I did get some when I solo leveled my mage through killing deep borers here in the dungeon, which is about 60 to 65k XP an hour, so not too bad either. So yeah, you want to make sure you get as many deep borers in your run as you can, because that's multiple more chances for Edgemaster's handguards. Alright, so there, you saw me reapply my ice barrier. I went ahead and pulled with a rank 1 Frost Nova. Here, get some Cone of Cold pulls, blink, counterspell, rank 1 Fire Blast. Usually you'll have, if you did it right, about 200 or 300 more damage to absorb with your ice barrier. I like to reapply it right about there. Get up here, give that one a Fire Blast to make sure you pull it. Arcane Explosion on the slime, blink past these two because they'll chain pull with those other slime. Kind of skirt around the Creeping Sludge here to make sure you don't pull these early on your left, but then you want to jump and Arcane Explosion to pull that other pack there. Counterspell because it has a really long range on this one. Blink away so the pack doesn't catch up to you. And here, you can get Meshlock the Harvester. You have to be careful. He can CC you sometimes if you're not careful. So sometimes you might have to find yourself even like speedily ice blocking. And I do bring a couple of limited invulnerability potions in case something like that goes wrong, because usually you can pop one and save yourself if you really run into an emergency. Here, I kind of messed up pulling that one. Usually I Fire Blasted as I jump, but I was a little distracted and just missed it. But basically, if you blinked at the right timing, right about when it comes back off cooldown, you can blink past this Deep Root Tangler, which allows the pack to get a little closer and not reset some of the satyrs and that sort of thing that you've pulled. Here you got to kind of dance around a Tangler and a satyr. You can pull the satyr potentially. You just have to tank it and it'll break your ice barrier, so I try to avoid it early. Here, rank 1 Frostbolts to pull these 3 satyr packs here. You can body pull the stealth one if it's near you, and you'll see on my left as I get a little closer that the huge pack is starting to come around, because we've gathered up at least, I don't know, 80, 90 mobs right now. But rank 1 Arcane Explosions or body pulls to pull that area. Frost Nova to pull this area, because those guys will unfreeze in time as the pack catches up and kind of group up with them. And then you jump off that ledge, making sure not to pull this Tangler that is down below. Then from there, you want to blink up, get a little extra distance. I like to reapply my ice barrier right around here if it's available. I used it a little too late, so it's not, but I'll reapply it as I get closer. And this is the room you'll notice right next to where, if you have accounts getting boosted, you'll find them just over here on the top right of my map. But basically, I like to hold my blink, because if this Stomper here is close by, you want to make sure that you don't pull him early, because he'll start to break your ice barrier and potentially really mess up your run a little bit. But yeah, so that part there is really important, the placement of the blizzards. So if you didn't get that, hopefully you can go back and just pause the video, see where I blizzarded real quick. That might give you a little insight into what I've found to be one of the best ways to pull. But basically, those mobs will start to run up the ramp together, and they kind of do this weird thing. I don't know enough about the game to know exactly why they do it, but they do this weird thing where they kind of double back on themselves as they run up the ramp. So if you get them at the right time, your blizzard will start to gather them up really nicely, and you can kind of get them in this relatively tightly clumped pack. Give them one more blizzard here to gather, and then jump off before they all catch up to you. If you let them catch up to you at all, pretty much, they'll one-shot you, because there's so many mobs together, they'll all hit you at the same time, especially with spell batching, even if you blink away or something, and you're just instantly dead. So you got to make sure you never let the pack catch up to you. It will kill you. Also, this is something I'll highlight to make sure for the people that don't actually watch the whole video or listen to the audio. But one of the most important things about this is you want to have minor speed enchant on your boots. When I first learned this pull, some really good mage in my guild was carrying some friends, and I think he learned it from the same video I saw when I originally learned it, which was some very blurry Chinese video that has since, I think, been taken off YouTube, which is part of the reason I'm making this video now, because there's no longer a resource. But I saw it, and I was like, oh, I guess I could probably do that. Like, seems like a fun challenge. And I wiped, like, 15 times trying to do the pull. And part of it was because I was inexperienced and bad, but the other part was I didn't have the speed enchant on my boots, because you need it to outrun this pack well enough, or you just will die very quickly every single time. So I figured that one out after, I don't know, at least 4 or 5 runs, and felt really stupid. Make sure you have that one, or you will die. But anyway, as you can see, we've got a big old pack starting to grow, and we're kind of going through some backtracking. You'll notice, like, I'm passing through areas that I've already passed through, but the general idea is you want to grab as many mobs as you can. Since it's such a long pull, you want to just maximize the XP earned for doing the entire thing. So here, you want to stop right around this little line on the edge of the ramp and Blizzard to gather. I'm experimenting with trying to pull this one tree. I think you have time to rank 1 Frostbolt it, but for the sake of the video and not messing up, I'll go ahead and just leave it. But that is like an extra 200 XP if you're boosting, so you'll want to make sure you can get it. And I've found success with rank 1 Frostbolt, but again, for the sake of the video, we're not going to go there. Along the way, you can pull all these. Body pull is probably not the best, because the Stompers do actually have a stun that they rarely will use on you that you won't resist all the time. But basically pull all those mobs and jump down. There's a little bit of a bend here. I try to stand right on the edge and set up to blizzard the mobs as they run down the ramp here. And you just kind of do your best to gather them up as well as possible. I try to usually use about 3 blizzards along the way, and some mobs always escape and don't get stuck in the big pack. What you do is, at that point, you can Nova anything that has reached you, as long as it's only a few mobs, which it should be, and start to run away from the pack, and you'll see them all chasing. Here, this is really important. If you get too far ahead of the pack, right in this area, it will reset every single satyr and every poison sprite some of the time. I'm not sure exactly what causes it. It might be that you didn't catch them in a blizzard at some point. It might be just the distance, but I found that you want to let them get relatively close there just to make sure that you don't reset them. Then here, you stop right on the edge of this ramp, and you blizzard so that the blizzard covers part of this root here. The mobs run up and over the root, and it slows them down a little bit, allowing them all basically to get hit by your blizzard. From there, blink forward, and you'll see this is the exact route we ran before, except everything on the way is pulled. Reapply your ice barrier right about as you go around this corner. Put on a mana shield as well, just in case your barrier breaks, but 1 or 2 mobs have come to melee you. You want to make sure your blizzard doesn't get interrupted. And from there, basically get up as quickly as possible to this area. Something very important to note too is this passageway here. If you're standing above it, because of some weird leeway thing or whatever, the mobs can actually hit you, melee you through that. So if you're only a very short way ahead of your pack, you'll just get straight up one-shot by all the mobs being able to hit you as they run down. Basically though, I usually use 2, now this is max rank instead of rank 1, blizzards to go ahead and gather the mobs. You'll see that I'm resisting and getting all my mana back, so I don't really need to worry about mana issues. And then after 2 blizzards, I run forward and left on this ledge to right about where my mouse is. The reason for that is you LOS the poison sprites that are giving you mana. If you let them hit you enough, they'll break your ice barrier too early, and you will start to get your blizzard interrupted and not be able to kill the mobs effectively. And then they'll catch you and you'll die, or you'll have to do a long regather that kind of wastes time. So from there, you run over to this area, it LOSs the mobs, so they start to run up onto the ramp, and then it gives you a little reprieve to kill the mobs without taking damage. But there you go, I've finished the pull in real time. I think, let me look at the recording, it took about 14 minutes from when I started recording the video. I think it's about a 12-minute pull, all told, but I took a little extra time to do some explanations, and I started at the portal, which is what you'll do if you're resetting. Now that they're all dead, I'll go back later and maybe give a couple individual pointers, explain gear, that sort of thing. But this is for the people who just want to see the pull and learn it without any of the extra fluff and that sort of thing. That should be good. But also, I started with around, we'll say, 623.5 gold, and I have one other character leeching here. I think, as far as I can tell, you'll get about 7.5 to 8 gold per run on average, and you can do over 4 runs an hour. I'd say it takes me about 14 minutes to do a full run with looting. So just in raw gold, you can expect 30 to 32 gold an hour from this. And then if you include blues and greens, by my estimate, I was really conservative when I got asked about it earlier. I think the Reddit post that someone made about me, one of my friends, said 40 gold an hour, but that was a really, really conservative estimate. If you're able to vendor some things, have a second account to hold things, if you have enchanting and can disenchant to hold some of the better materials, mostly nether essence from here, I would say you could easily bag 60 gold an hour, probably minimum, is what I would say. And if you have enchanting, I'd say it's more like 70, maybe even 80 gold an hour. Each run, if you're level maybe 40 through 48-ish, should be about 18 to 22k XP, depending on how much of the mobs you actually manage to pull, or how many. Here's a fungus shroud armor. Sometimes you pick up Meshlock the Harvester, which is a rare spawn, and he gives you a couple little extra BOEs and good XP. But yeah, so with greens, blues, and that sort of thing, I'd say it's probably about 70 gold an hour, and if you're carrying other people, expect them to get anywhere from 70 to 85k XP an hour, I would say. If you have a warlock in your party and you can summon people back, they'll even be able to vendor if you let them loot grays and that sort of thing, or even greens. And I think that a very fair estimate, none of that YouTube clickbait kind of thing, would be 60 gold an hour if you're the mage, and if you're boosting an account and it's solo, probably about 60 to 70k an hour, and if it's in a party with a relatively balanced party level, 75k an hour is very, very doable, and you could even get upwards of 85k if you're running really smoothly and pulling a bunch of mobs. Looks like that run my druid got about 65k an hour pace, and that's solo with no other members in the party at level 51, which is a little over leveled for here. I would do this anywhere from level 40 to 52, I would say. But yeah, that's basically it. Like I said, there are also some really good epics you can get from these mobs that make it some potential really great additional gold. Personally, I've gotten Edge Masters, I've gotten a Bow of Searing Arrows, which is about 60 gold. I've got an Underworld Band, which on my server is about 200 gold. And I'd say maybe every 8 hours or so I've gotten an epic. Because you're killing so many mobs, you're getting so many rolls on the epic table, and they can drop BOE epics pretty much everything as far as I'm aware, except for maybe the sprites. So you will find that you get quite a few. And then here and there you'll find some decent greens, some blues. If you vendor them, or vendor them or disenchant them, you're not going to get as much money as if you could sell them. Like you could see this agility strength ring, good for rogues. Probably could sell for 3 or 4 gold on the auction house, but I usually just disenchant things because it lets me keep chugging with the runs, get as many in as possible. But yeah, that should be about it for the run. I hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you for watching. I will probably include a section about like the gear I'm using and that sort of thing, just to make sure that everyone gets a good feel for it. But you really don't need very good gear. I started out with just dungeon blues, not even pre-raid bis or anything. Mostly stuff with stamina and intellect for AoE farming. And like you can see, I made mana gems. You'll want to make those, but I didn't need to use them at all. I'll do a thing for the talents, of course, that I'll probably put in front of this just to make sure that everyone has like the talent that where you resist, you get 5% of your max mana back, because obviously that's completely necessary for this, as well as things like improved blizzard and a lot of things in the frost tree. But hopefully I covered everything I needed to. That run took about 14 minutes all told, including recording, 16 minutes with looting, and you should, once you're really smooth, be able to cut it down to about 11.5 to 12 minutes for the whole pull, starting from the time that you leave the instance right here. And with looting, usually it depends on how many people in your party are looting, because they can just AFK, which is a lot easier on them. But I would say all told, maybe 13.5 minutes a run. So you can easily do 4 runs an hour, and you'll even get close to locking out after about 4 or 5 hours if you do it straight. But yeah, as you can tell, we're right where I started the video. And what you do is you'd go ahead and reset the instance here. You go ahead and run this way, and if you have any buffs from your party, you know, like Mark of the Wild, you could get them now. And you send the XP accounts right back into the portal, like you can see, and start on over. Looking back at the video, I figured it'd be a good idea to just add a couple little tips and tricks and point out some specific things that I did that I may not have mentioned during the video that are very important. First thing, I want to revisit a part near the end of the pull where you can switch to Mage armor. Let me go ahead and pull up the video, and I'll just commentate over it real quick to show you. Revisiting this part of the pull where we've got all of the mobs done and are just getting ready to move them back to where we killed them together and grouping them up a little bit. It's very easy to switch over to Mage armor at some point during this pull. You can see it in the middle of my bars on the right. I can just click on it and use it. It allows your mana to keep regenerating while you're casting, and also gives you additional resist. I didn't feel it was necessary this run, so I just didn't do it. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. But especially for if you're learning the pull, I would recommend at this point, when you're not going to be hit anymore and don't need the extra armor, just swap over to Mage armor. Next, let's talk about the tree. During the end of the pull, when you're killing the mobs, you've got them gathered up on the side over here, and you're max rank blizzarding them down. As they get close to you, you need to reset them and get away from them without causing any evasions or letting them reach you and one-shot you, because there are so many mobs stacked on top of each other. To do that, we use the tree you see me standing on right now. All you do is you run straight off the ledge, no need to jump or anything, just run straight at it, and you'll land on the top of the tree, which then counts you as being on the ground at ground level instead of up on the ledge. So when you do that, the mobs will path back down the ramp to try to get to you. You want to try to do this when the mobs are kind of right in the middle of the ramp behind that other tree, because they run around a little bit in circles, like they kind of get delayed, do some zigzags, and it keeps them running down the ramp slower and gives you more time. So you run straight off the ledge onto the tree to get to it, and then you jump straight up back onto the little kind of triangular part where the two parts of the ledge come together. And that's going to take maybe a little practice, and if you ever miss the jump, you're either dead or you have to do a full regather. And on that note, I'll move on and show you a regather next. Here I went ahead and did another run, and as you can see, it's going pretty well. But on purpose, I wanted to let, I swear it was on purpose, but no, I wanted to let at least one get out of the pack and start to charge me, so I can show you what happens when something goes wrong. Because a lot of the time, especially when you're learning, you're going to find that maybe 1 or 2 mobs get away from the pack and you don't have a very good way to reset them. And if it's more than 1 or 2, maybe the blizzard gets split up, you have like 10, 15 mobs charging at you, you're not really going to be able to fix it just by jumping back and forth on the tree and juggling aggro up and down pretty well. So at this point, what I would do is I'd basically just go back to gathering like you did the first time around when you came through this room. So you go up to that ledge there, you use rank 1 blizzards. I use some rank 1s and some max rank here, just depending on my mana. But if the mobs are pretty low health and you mess up right near the end, I would use max rank, because you can probably just kill them without going any farther. Otherwise, like you can see right now, you use rank 1s just to conserve mana for when you'll be killing them later. So the goal is basically gather them up as closely as you possibly can. You're going to need to run out of the room, back through the previous route, and then get them all back into this room once again and kill them. So I'll speed this part up. It's basically just I'm running all the way back through, backtracking to the point where I can jump off the ledge and come back around. Every once in a while, if you can, stop to gather them up just a little more, because the closer you can get them together, the better you'll be able to kill them when they finally come back into the room where you're going to kill them. as you can see, we're back in the kill room as quickly as possible, right as the mobs start to stream in. If you don't get back really quick, they will get there ahead of time and hit you underneath with the leeway, like I mentioned before in the video. And basically, I mean, do your best to just gather them up properly. You may not have the exact same blizzard placement as you did in the first place, and you may run a little low on mana. So feel free to, this is when you would make use of your mana gems. This is when you could use evocation. As long as the mobs are all slowed, take a second to evocate on the tree, which I go ahead and do here. Also, as a quick example, pop evo, you see they're all still slowed. So I have time to regain my mana, and I don't need to panic. I can just wait till it ticks back up. I make sure I have plenty to finish the kill, and then jump back up and make sure I get the blizzard down to slow them before they can get to me. But yeah, that's basically going to happen a lot probably as you're learning, unless you're a really good mage player, which I can tell you I'm not. I'm a rogue main, and I'd never played WoW before this. So yeah, just something you'll learn as you go in the runs is you will make mistakes, things will go wrong, but the more comfortable you are with the run, the more practice you have, and the more familiar you are with the route, the more easily you'll be able to recover, and mistakes will be fewer and more far between, and when you do make them, you'll be able to fix them and end up with a full kill like this. With that, I think it's about time to wrap it all up. I just want to take a second to trash talk ZF. I went there to try to get my druid boosted when I was playing on my main, trying to grind some PvP, and I realized Maraudon was just so much faster that I had to start doing it, and I just couldn't handle the speed of ZF, which a good mage, I would say, will get you 35k, maybe 40k XP an hour at ZF during this level range, which is exactly the same at Maraudon. And Maraudon is easily twice that, and that's only if you get a good mage at ZF. No one dies on the way in during the runs, and you don't take time to kill bosses and that sort of thing. So I would 100% recommend either learning Maraudon if you're a level 60 mage interested in boosting or big AoE gold farming, or finding a mage who can do it, hopefully on your server, if you're trying to buy a boost. Because I personally plan to charge not that much more than the ZF people for this, and it's certainly going to be more than twice as fast and very profitable for me as well. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. If you stuck through the whole video, I appreciate it. Sorry, this ended up being way longer than I expected, but I just want to make sure I covered pretty much everything. If you guys have any questions, comments, improvements to the run, that sort of thing, feel free to put them in the comments section. I will try my best to keep up with it. And yeah, thank you for watching. Hope you guys learn the pull or find someone who knows it and get some great gold and XP.